The sun of December cast golden reflections on the crystal-clear surface of the Johnson Mansion's heated pool, one of the most imposing residences in Beverly Hills, USA. The house, with its 3 stories and modern architecture blending glass and Italian marble, stood majestically among meticulously maintained gardens tended by renowned landscapers. Palm trees lined the main entrance, and the soft sound of an ornamental fountain echoed through the inner courtyard, creating a serene atmosphere that contrasted with the constant hustle of the business world that inhabited those walls. Maria Johnson, 42 years old, moved silently through the corridors of travertine marble, her simple sandals making an almost imperceptible noise on the polished floor. Her brown hair, always tied in a simple bun, revealed a few grey strands she didn't bother to hide. The impeccably pressed navy blue uniform contrasted with her calloused hands, silent witnesses of a life of hard work. Her dark brown eyes carried a depth that few took the time to notice, always attentive to details that others ignored. The accumulated dust on the check crystal chandelier, the pile of disorganized mail on the mahogany table, the orchid vase that needed water. 3 weeks prior, Maria had been hired to work twice a week at the Johnson residence. The employment agency had chosen her from dozens of candidates due to her impeccable references and the discretion she demonstrated during the interview. What no one knew was that behind that apparent simplicity hid a woman with higher education, forged by devastating losses and life-changing decisions. On that specific morning, while polishing the furniture in the living room, a space decorated with contemporary art and furniture by famous designers, Maria could hear the deep voices coming from Robert Johnson's office. The family patriarch, at 55, was conducting a meeting with international investors interested in his agribusiness ventures. His voice, always firm and authoritative, echoed down the hallway, along with the rustle of papers being handled and the clinking of coffee cups served in fine china. The third quarter numbers exceeded all expectations, Robert said, his voice carrying the refined American accent typical of the business elite. Our investments in the North have proven to be extremely profitable, especially in the soybean and corn sectors. Rebecca Johnson, Robert's wife, participated in the meeting wearing a light pink Gucci ensemble, her perfectly styled blonde hair framing a face that revealed the benefits of regular aesthetic treatments. At 43, she maintained a posture that was always upright, as if she were constantly being photographed for society magazines. Her grey-blue eyes sparkled with a sharp intelligence for numbers, but also revealed a deep insecurity she tried to mask with flashy jewelry and designer clothes. "Sweetheart, don't you think we should diversify investments more?" Rebecca asked, mixing English and a hint of her European-acquired accent. "The market has been very volatile lately." Ryan, the couple's eldest son, took advantage of his parents' absence to wander around the house with his headphones on, seemingly absorbed in his playlist, but in reality, observing everything around him with critical eyes. At 16, the boy already displayed the height he inherited from his father, but his slouched posture and deliberately messy clothes revealed a silent rebellion against family standards. His brown hair fell over his green eyes, creating a physical barrier that mirrored the emotional distance he maintained from the adult world surrounding him. Meanwhile, in the inner courtyard of the mansion, little Lily played alone in the heated pool. At 7 years old, the girl was the opposite of her older brother, extroverted, curious, and seemingly immune to the tension that sometimes loomed over the house. Her blonde hair, identical to her mother's, swayed as she pretended to be a mermaid, diving and emerging from the crystal-clear water as if she were a magical being. The pink unicorn swimsuit contrasted with the architectural seriousness of the environment, bringing life and color to that elegant yet cold space. Maria, focused on her work, kept an attentive ear to the sounds of the house. It was a habit she had developed over the years, always alert, always watching, always ready to act when necessary. This constant vigilance had been her salvation in past situations, and also her burden. It was impossible to completely disconnect, to truly relax, to trust that someone else would take care of the important things. The accident happened in the blink of an eye. Lily, trying to reach a ball that had fallen into the deep end of the pool, lost her balance on the slippery edge. The sound of the unplanned dive echoed through the courtyard like a cry of alarm. The child, who still hadn't fully mastered swimming, began to flail in the water, her small body being pulled down by the weight of fear and the depth exceeding her height. Maria, who at that moment was organizing books on the bookshelf adjacent to the courtyard, heard the sound and immediately recognized the danger. There was no hesitation, no time to shout for help or run to find the parents. Her maternal instincts, still alive and pulsating despite the personal tragedy she carried, took over her movements. Without even taking off her shoes, Maria ran towards the pool and dove in fully clothed into the warm water. Her navy blue uniform became heavy, making her movements difficult. But she swam with determination towards little Lily, who was already showing signs of despair. The class difference, the distance between employer and employee, the protocols of a traditional household, none of that mattered at that moment. There was only a child in danger and a woman willing to save her. "Calm down, Lily, I'm here," shouted Maria, her voice echoing through the yard as she stretched her arms to reach the girl. "You're going to be okay, I promise." The rescue happened in a matter of seconds, but for Maria, it felt like endless hours. Her experienced hands enveloped Lily's trembling small body, pulling her to the surface with firm and precise movements. The child coughed, expelling the water she had swallowed, her blue eyes wide with fear and relief. Maria carried her to the edge of the pool, where they both sat panting, water dripping from their soaked clothes onto the teak wood deck. "Aunt Maria, I thought I was..." Lily sobbed, unable to finish the haunting sentence. "Shh, my little one," murmured Maria, wrapping the girl in her wet arms, ignoring the fact that her uniform clung uncomfortably to her body. "You're safe now. It's all right." The sound of the splash and the screams had finally reached the ears of the adults in the office. Robert was the first to appear at the door leading to the yard, his eyes quickly scanning the scene. His youngest daughter soaked in the arms of the housekeeper, both trembling not only from the cold, but from the fright that still hung in the air like a thick fog. "My God, what happened here?" exclaimed Robert, his voice laden with a mix of panic and relief. He ran towards the two, his Italian shoes slipping slightly on the wet floor. Rebecca soon followed behind her husband, accompanied by the foreign investors who looked embarrassed to witness such an intimate moment of the family. Her initial expression of concern quickly transformed into a mask of social composure, as if she were mentally calculating how this situation could affect the family's image in front of the important guests. "Lily, my love, are you okay?" shouted Rebecca, rushing towards her daughter and practically tearing her from Maria's arms. "What were you doing alone in the pool? How many times have I told you not to play here without supervision?" Robert extended his hand to help Maria up, his eyes revealing genuine gratitude that contrasted with the palpable tension emanating from his wife. "Maria, we have no words to thank you for what you did. You saved our daughter." Maria accepted the help, rising with dignity despite the soaked clothes that made her appear smaller and more vulnerable. Her wet hair clung to her face, but her eyes maintained the same serenity she always displayed, as if acts of heroism were routine in her life. "It was nothing, Mr. Robert," she replied, her voice calm and controlled. "Anyone would have done the same thing. The important thing is that Lily is okay." "Not just anyone, Maria," insisted Robert, gently placing a towel over her shoulders. "Many would hesitate, think twice. You acted on instinct, putting my daughter's life before anything else. That is priceless." Ryan, who had rushed down upon hearing the commotion, watched the scene from a distance, leaning against the doorframe. His green eyes studied Maria with newfound curiosity, as if he were seeing her for the first time. There was something in the unpretentious courage of that woman that intrigued him, an authenticity he rarely found in the artificial world he lived in. The foreign investors, realizing they had become unwanted spectators of a family drama, murmured polite apologies and discreetly retreated to the office, promising to resume the meeting later. Rebecca followed them with her gaze, her mind already calculating how to explain that embarrassing incident. "Well, now that everything is resolved, I think it's best for you to change, Maria," said Rebecca, her voice carrying a tone of authority that tried to re-establish the natural hierarchy of the household. "And Lily, you need to take a hot shower immediately. I don't want you to catch pneumonia because of this irresponsibility." "Rebecca, please," interjected Robert, his voice carrying a subtle reprimand. "Maria just saved our daughter. Perhaps we can show a little more gratitude and less domestic efficiency." The tension between the couple became palpable, like a stretched rope about to snap. Rebecca intertwined her fingers, her perfectly manicured nails pressing into her palms as she struggled to maintain her composure. "Of course I'm grateful, Robert. I'm just worried about Lily's health. And Maria's too," she added, glancing briefly at the housekeeper. "Maybe you should go home today, rest, and thank you." "Really? Thank you for what you did." Maria nodded silently, acknowledging the polite yet firm dismissal. She headed to the staff changing room, located near the service area, leaving wet footprints along the way. Her movements were dignified, unhurried, as if she perfectly understood the complex dynamics of that family and knew how to navigate them without being affected. In the changing room, as she changed out of her wet uniform into her personal clothes, a simple pair of jeans and a white cotton shirt, Maria allowed herself a moment of reflection. The small, foggy mirror reflected her tired face, but also a deep satisfaction she rarely felt. For a few moments, she had felt useful again, needed, capable of making a difference in someone's life. Her hands trembled slightly as she buttoned her shirt, not from the cold, but from the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. The image of Lily flailing in the water had awakened memories she preferred to keep buried, memories of another child she couldn't save in time. "Aunt Maria," Lily's soft voice echoed from outside the changing room. "Are you leaving?" Maria opened the door and found the girl, now wearing a pink fluffy robe, her blonde hair still damp but styled. Lily's blue eyes sparkled with a mix of admiration and affection that made Maria's heart tighten. "I need to go home, dear." "But I'll be back on Thursday, as always," Maria replied, crouching down to Lily's height. "You were very brave," said Lily, extending her small arms to hug Maria. "Mommy said that you are a true heroine." The embrace lasted only a few seconds, but it was enough for Maria to feel a deep connection forming between them. It was as if, in that moment, they both recognized that something special was blossoming between them, something that transcended the formal relationship between employee and family. When Maria stood up, she found Robert watching the scene from the hallway, his eyes revealing a complex emotion that she couldn't fully decipher. There was certainly gratitude, but also something deeper. Perhaps the acknowledgement that this simple woman possessed qualities he admired and respected. "Maria," he called, approaching, "I would like to talk to you before you leave. In my office, if you don't mind." Robert Johnson's office was a sanctuary of power and tradition. Hardwood shelves stretched from floor to ceiling, filled with leather-bound volumes on economics, corporate law, and biographies of great world leaders. Behind the imposing mahogany desk, a portrait of Robert's grandfather, the founder of the family empire, solemnly observed all who entered the space. The walls were adorned with framed diplomas, merit certificates, and photographs of him greeting politicians and influential figures from the national scene. Maria entered the office still, with slightly damp hair, her simple clothes contrasting drastically with the opulence of the environment. She maintained an upright posture, but her intertwined hands revealed a subtle tension. It wasn't the first time she had entered that space to receive instructions, but this time there was something different in the air, a gravity that went beyond the usual domestic tasks. "Please, have a seat," Robert said, indicating one of the brown leather armchairs positioned in front of his desk. He himself remained standing, walking to the window that offered a panoramic view of the gardens, where Lily was now playing peacefully under the supervision of the nanny. "Mr. Robert, if you are concerned about what happened, I can assure you it was just an accident," Maria began, anticipating what she imagined to be the reason for the conversation. "Lily is a very responsible child. She just—" "Maria, please," he interrupted, turning to face her. His dark brown eyes carried an intensity she was not used to seeing. "I didn't call you here to discuss responsibilities or accidents. I called to talk about you." The silence that followed was thick, laden with expectation. Maria felt a flutter in her stomach, and that familiar sensation when something important was about to happen, for better or for worse. "What I saw today was not just an employee fulfilling her duty," Robert continued, returning to his chair and leaning forward. "I saw a woman who acted on maternal instinct, who risked her own safety without hesitating for a second. It made me think, who are you really, Maria?" The question caught her off guard. For 3 weeks, she had strived to remain invisible, to be just another efficient and discreet employee. Now, under Robert's penetrating gaze, she felt as if her layers of protection were being slowly peeled away. I'm just a woman who needs to work, Mr. Robert," she replied, choosing her words carefully. "A woman who understands the importance of caring for those entrusted to us." "Your documents say you have worked in domestic work for the past few years," he said, opening a folder that was on the desk. "But the way you carry yourself, how you speak, how you acted today, there is something more, isn't there?" Maria felt her heart race. She had been careful in constructing her current resume, deliberately omitting parts of her education and professional experience. It was easier to get work as a housekeeper than to explain why a woman with higher education was willing to work in domestic services. "We all have complex pasts, Mr. Robert," she replied diplomatically. "What matters is the present, the work we do now." At that moment, the office door opened and Rebecca entered without knocking, carrying a tray with coffee and cookies. Her eyes narrowed slightly at the scene, her husband in an apparently intimate conversation with the employee. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, her sweet voice masking an evident tension. "I thought you might want some coffee while you talk, about whatever it is you're discussing." "Thank you, dear," Robert replied, not picking up or choosing to ignore the subtle disapproval in his wife's voice. "I was just thanking Maria once again for what she did today." Rebecca placed the tray on the table with a bit more force than necessary, making the coffee cups clink softly. Her blue eyes studied Maria with a calculating intensity, as if she were trying to decipher a complex riddle. "Of course, we are all very grateful," Rebecca said, serving the coffee in fine china coffee cups. "It was truly surprising to see how quickly you reacted, almost as if you had medical training or something." Rebecca's seemingly casual observation made Maria tense imperceptibly. There was something in the way her employer spoke that suggested more than a casual remark. There was suspicion. Just maternal instinct. "Mrs. Rebecca," Maria replied, accepting the offered coffee cup. "When it comes to children in danger, I believe any woman would react the same way." "Maternal instinct," Rebecca repeated, savoring the words as if they were wine. "Do you have children, Maria?" The question dropped like a bomb in the already tense atmosphere. Maria felt as if the air had been sucked out of the office, as if the elegant walls were closing in around her. Her hands trembled almost imperceptibly as she held the cup, and for a moment she considered lying, as she had done so many times before. I had, she finally replied, her voice barely rising above a whisper. But no more. The silence that followed was deafening. Robert furrowed his brow, clearly not expecting that revelation. While Rebecca straightened in her chair, her expression of suspicion momentarily replaced by something that could be embarrassment or even compassion. "I'm sorry," Robert said sincerely. "It wasn't my intention." "It's all right," interrupted Maria, quickly regaining her composure. "It was a long time ago." But Rebecca was not willing to let the matter die so easily. Her maternal and territorial instincts had been activated, and she needed to understand exactly who she was dealing with. "It must have been very difficult," she said, her voice carrying a sympathy that didn't reach her eyes. "Losing a child, it's unimaginable. How did it happen?" "Rebecca," Robert gently reprimanded, "perhaps this is too personal a conversation." "No, it's fine," Maria said, rising from the armchair. "But if you don't mind, I'd prefer not to go into details. They are painful memories that I would rather keep buried." She placed the still full coffee cup on the tray and headed for the door, eager to escape that disguised interrogation of gratitude. "Maria," Robert called as she was already at the door, "I want you to know that regardless of your past, what you did today showed us the kind of person you are. And that kind of person will always be welcome in our home." Maria nodded silently and left the office, leaving behind a couple in silence, each lost in their own thoughts about the mysterious woman who had just exited their lives and entered them in a much deeper way than either of them could have imagined. As she walked through the hallways toward the exit, Maria could not know that her words had planted a seed of curiosity and suspicion in Rebecca's mind, a seed that would grow into a dangerous obsession with the secrets she carried. 2 weeks had passed since the incident at the pool, and the routine of the Johnson mansion had seemingly returned to normal. Maria continued to fulfill her schedule on Tuesdays and Thursdays, always punctual, always efficient, always discreet. However, something fundamental had changed in the dynamics of the house. A subtle tension hung in the air, like electricity before a storm. Lily had developed a visible attachment to Maria, seeking her company whenever possible. The girl followed her around the house like a faithful puppy, offering help with tasks and sharing stories about her days at the private school she attended. It was common to find them chatting animatedly while Maria polished the furniture or organized the clothes in the main closet. "Aunt Maria, did you know I learned a new song on the piano today?" Lily chattered on a rainy Thursday in December, sitting on the floor of her parents' room while watching Maria change the Egyptian silk sheets. "The teacher said I have a natural talent. Mommy was very proud." Maria smiled genuinely for the first time in a long while. There was something in Lily's innocence and energy that awakened feelings she had buried deep in her heart. The child was like a ray of sunshine breaking through the heavy clouds of her life. "That's wonderful, dear." "I'm sure you play very well," Maria replied, carefully smoothing the new sheets. "Music is one of the most beautiful things in the world." "Do you play any instruments, Aunt Maria?" Lily asked, her blue eyes shining with curiosity. The question caught Maria off guard. For a moment, she found herself back at 16, sitting at her aunt's grand piano in New Orleans, her fingers gliding over the keys as she played a Chopin sonata. Those had been happier times when the future seemed filled with endless possibilities. "I used to play the piano," she admitted hesitantly, "but that was a long time ago." "Maybe you could teach me something," Lily exclaimed, clapping her hands in excitement. "Daddy said Grandma Carmen was a famous pianist before she left. Mommy doesn't like us talking about it, but I think it would be nice to have someone who understands music." Before Maria could respond, Rebecca's voice echoed down the hallway, calling for Lily. The girl made a face of disappointment and ran to find her mother, leaving Maria alone with complex thoughts about the past and family secrets that apparently still hurt. From downstairs, Maria could hear the conversation between mother and daughter, their voices echoing through the house due to the peculiar acoustics of the modern architecture. "Lily, how many times do I have to tell you not to bother Maria while she works?" Rebecca said, her voice carrying barely concealed irritation. "She has her responsibilities and you have yours. But Mommy, she's so nice." And she knows how to play the piano. Maybe she could give me some lessons. Lily argued with the irrefutable logic of children. The silence that followed was thick and loaded with meaning. Maria could imagine Rebecca's expression, that mask of social control, struggling against a growing unease. "Lily, dear," Rebecca finally said, her voice forcedly sweet, "Maria is here to help us with the house cleaning. Nothing more. You have a very qualified piano teacher, and we don't need other people getting involved in your education." As she finished tidying up the room, Maria couldn't help but reflect on the complexity of that family. There were layers of history and pain that she still did not fully understand, but could feel vibrating in the subtext of every conversation, every glance, every prolonged silence. Later that same day, while cleaning the library, a space that always fascinated her with its thousands of carefully organized volumes, Maria heard firm footsteps approaching. It was Ryan, who rarely bothered to greet her beyond a polite nod. The teenager stopped at the entrance of the library, watching her work with an unusual intensity. "Can I ask a question?" he said abruptly, taking off the headphones that seemed to be a permanent extension of his body. Maria turned, surprised by his initiative to converse. Ryan was leaning against the doorframe, his hands shoved into the pockets of his ripped jeans, which he wore as a statement of rebellion against his parents' formal world. "Sure, Ryan, what would you like to know?" "You're not like the others." "Other employees who have worked here," he said, studying her face with incredibly perceptive green eyes for his 16 years. "There's something different about you. You have a degree in something, don't you?" The boy's observation was surprisingly astute. Maria felt as if he could see through all the layers of protection she had built over the years. "Why do you think that?" she asked, curious about how far the boy's perception went. "It's the way you look at the books," Ryan replied, stepping into the library and approaching her. "It's not the look of someone who only sees objects to clean. It's the look of someone who understands them, who has read many of them." Maria was impressed by the boy's sensitivity. It was true. She couldn't help but skim through some volumes while cleaning them, especially the law treatises and the classics of American literature. "You are very observant," she said diplomatically. "I've always loved reading, even though my formal education is limited." "That's a lie," Ryan said innocently, but with a conviction that surprised her. "You speak like a teacher at my school. You use words that my parents use when they're trying to impress someone. And this morning I saw you organizing my dad's contracts on his desk. You were reading them, not just organizing." Maria felt a chill run down her spine. She had been careless, allowing her natural curiosity and legal training to surface while handling Robert's documents. Apparently, there had been a more attentive witness than she had imagined. "Ryan, she began, but was interrupted by the sudden entrance of Rebecca into the library. "Ryan, what are you doing here?" "Shouldn't you be studying?" Rebecca asked, her eyes darting quickly between her son and Maria, as if trying to decipher the nature of the conversation she had interrupted. "I was just asking about a book, Mom," Ryan lied easily, putting his headphones back on. "Relax." He left the library with the irritating nonchalance of teenagers, leaving Rebecca and Maria alone in a silence thick with tension. Rebecca approached slowly, her high heels echoing on the wooden floor. "Maria, may I ask you a question?" she said, involuntarily echoing her son's words. "Are you sure you told us everything about your past when you were hired?" The question was too direct to be ignored or sidestepped with diplomacy. Maria took a deep breath, preparing to navigate increasingly turbulent waters. "Mrs. Johnson, I can assure you that everything in my documents is true," she replied carefully. "But not necessarily complete, is it?" Rebecca insisted, moving closer. "You see, Maria, I'm not questioning your competence or honesty. You do an excellent job here. But a mother has instincts, you know? And my instinct is telling me there's more to you than meets the eye." The direct confrontation had come sooner than Maria expected. She could feel the moment when her carefully constructed life began to crumble, brick by brick, under the growing scrutiny of a family that had become more important to her than it should have. The tension between Rebecca and Maria was interrupted by a sharp scream coming from upstairs. Lily was crying, a desperate wail that immediately activated the maternal instincts of both women. Rebecca rushed upstairs, closely followed by Maria, all previous conversation momentarily forgotten in the urgency of the situation. They found Lily in her room, hunched over the bed, her small hands pressed against her chest as she struggled to breathe. "Lily, my God, what's happening?" Rebecca shouted, rushing to embrace her daughter. "Talk to me, sweetheart. What are you feeling?"
I can't.
"Breathe properly," Lily gasped between sobs. "It hurts, here in my chest. And I'm hot." Rebecca, overtaken by panic, began to tremble as she held her daughter. Her medical knowledge was limited to basic first aid, and the situation was clearly beyond her competence. Her hands shook as she tried to feel her daughter's temperature. "She has a high fever," she murmured, her voice heavy with despair. "I need to call Dr. Smith immediately. Or maybe we should go straight to the hospital." Maria, who had remained at the door observing the scene, stepped forward. Her years of experience in a hospital environment immediately recognized the symptoms Lily was exhibiting. The labored breathing, the sudden fever, the chest pain, all pointed to an acute respiratory infection that, if not treated properly, could develop into something more serious. "Mrs. Johnson," she said calmly, "may I take a look at Lily?" Rebecca looked up, her expression revealing a mix of despair and hesitation. "Do you know about this?" "A little," Maria replied modestly, approaching the bed.
May I?
Rebecca nervously nodded, watching as Maria sat on the edge of the bed and began a systematic assessment of Lily. Her movements were precise and professional, very different from the posture of a simple housekeeper. "Lily, sweetheart, I'm going to touch your neck here, okay?" Maria said gently, her fingers delicately palpating the girl's lymph nodes. "Does it hurt when you swallow?" Lily nodded, her blue eyes fixed on Maria's calm face. There was something comforting in the serenity of that woman that made her feel safer even amid the discomfort. Maria continued the examination, checking Lily's ears with a small flashlight she took from her bag, observing her throat and auscultating her lungs with an improvised stethoscope made from a glass cup. "It's an acute respiratory infection," she finally diagnosed, turning to Rebecca. "Probably viral, but with a risk of secondary bacterial complication. She needs antibiotics, plenty of fluids, and complete rest." Rebecca was taken aback. The precision and naturalness with which Maria had conducted the examination were impressive, revealing a technical knowledge that went far beyond what any layperson should possess. "Where did you learn to do this?" Rebecca asked, her voice laden with surprise and growing suspicion. Maria realized she had exposed herself too much, but her concern for Lily had surpassed her usual caution. There was no turning back or pretending she didn't know what she was talking about. "I worked as a nursing technician for 15 years, she finally admitted, her words falling into the room like stones in a silent lake. "At the state hospital in New Orleans." The silence that followed was deafening. Rebecca studied Maria's face as if she were seeing a complete stranger, trying to reconcile the image of the humble housekeeper with the competent healthcare professional before her. 15 years, Rebecca repeated slowly. "And why is a nursing technician with 15 years of experience working as a housekeeper in Beverly Hills?" Before Maria could respond, Robert appeared in the doorway, alerted by the shouts he had heard from his office. His eyes immediately assessed the situation. Lily pale in bed, Rebecca visibly shaken, and Maria in a position suggesting medical involvement. "What's going on here?" he asked, quickly approaching the bed where his daughter lay. "Lily has an acute respiratory infection," Maria replied professionally. "I recommend taking her to the pediatrician as soon as possible for appropriate antibiotic prescription. For now, she needs fluids, acetaminophen for the fever, and rest." Robert looked from Maria to Rebecca, immediately realizing he had missed something important in the dynamic between the two women. "Rebecca, call Dr. Smith immediately," he instructed, pulling his phone from his pocket. "And Maria, thank you once again. It seems you have more talents than we imagined." "Robert," Rebecca interrupted, her voice laden with a tension he couldn't interpret. "Maria just told us she's a nursing technician. 15 years of hospital experience? The revelation hit Robert like a lightning bolt. He studied Maria's face with renewed interest, his previous impressions of her being quickly re-evaluated and reorganized. Nursing technician, he repeated thoughtfully. That explains a lot about how you acted at the pool, about your presence of mind in emergency situations. Why didn't you tell us this when you were hired? Rebecca asked, her voice revealing a mix of admiration and irritation. Why present yourself only as a housekeeper when you have such a respectable professional qualification? Maria took a deep breath, knowing the moment had come to reveal at least part of her story. Lily still needed urgent medical care, but the conversation that had started in the library could no longer be postponed. Sometimes, she said carefully, life's circumstances force us to make choices we would prefer not to have to make. My medical experience is real, but my story is complicated. Complicated how? Rebecca insisted, now completely absorbed by the mystery that Maria represented. Complicated like someone who lost everything they built over an entire career, Maria replied, her voice heavy with a pain she rarely allowed to be perceived. Someone who had to start over from scratch, in a different city, far from everything they knew. The raw honesty of her response created an unexpected moment of intimacy in the room. Even Lily, still feverish and uncomfortable, seemed to sense the importance of that moment, silently observing the adults around her. "Maria," Robert said gently, "perhaps it's time we talk about this more calmly. But first, let's take care of Lily." As Rebecca called the pediatrician and Robert arranged transportation to the hospital, Maria stayed by Lily's side, holding her small, warm hand. The child had become the catalyst that forced Maria to lower her defenses, and now there was no turning back. The secrets she had carefully guarded for 3 years were finally coming to light, and she could only hope that the Johnson family would be understanding enough to accept the complete truth about who she really was. 3 days passed since Lily's medical episode, and the girl was already recovering thanks to Maria's accurate diagnosis and the swift treatment prescribed by Dr. Smith. The pediatrician had been impressed with the initial assessment, commenting to Robert that he rarely saw lay people with such clinical precision. This observation only intensified the couple's curiosity about their employee's mysterious past. Rebecca could no longer focus on her usual activities. Lunches at the club, charity meetings, spa sessions, everything felt superficial in the face of the enigma that Maria represented. The revelation about her medical training had opened a Pandora's box of questions that consumed her thoughts during waking hours and kept her awake at night. "Don't you find it strange, Robert?" she asked one Saturday morning as they had breakfast on the gourmet balcony overlooking the garden. A nursing technician with 15 years of experience, clearly intelligent and competent, working as a housekeeper. "There's something she's not telling us." Robert carefully folded the financial newspaper he had been reading, his eyes meeting his wife's over his reading glasses. He had noticed Rebecca's growing obsession with the subject and was beginning to worry about the intensity of her fixation. "Sweetheart, people have a right to their secrets," he replied diplomatically. "Maybe she went through personal hardships that forced her to change careers. That's not necessarily our concern." "Not our concern," Rebecca repeated, her voice rising an octave. "Robert, this woman saved our daughter twice. She has access to our home, our children, our intimacy, and we don't know anything about her beyond what she chose to tell us." The discussion was interrupted by Lily's arrival, who came down for breakfast, still in her pajamas, her blonde hair tousled from sleep. The girl seemed completely recovered, her eyes shining with her usual energy.
"Good morning, Daddy."
"Good morning, Mommy," she said cheerfully, giving kisses to her parents before sitting at the table. "Is Aunt Maria coming today?" "No, dear," Rebecca replied. "Today is Saturday. She only comes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, remember?" Lily made a disappointed face that did not go unnoticed by her parents. The child had developed a genuine affection for Maria that went far beyond gratitude for her rescue. There was an emotional connection that deeply worried Rebecca. She's really nice, isn't she? Lily commented innocently, pouring orange juice into her cup. She knows a ton of things. Yesterday she told me about the birds in California. She even knows their scientific names. Robert and Rebecca exchanged meaningful glances. Another clue about Maria's past, her detailed knowledge of California's fauna, suggested experience in the region. After breakfast, while Robert headed to the office for a few hours of work and Lily watched cartoons in the living room, Rebecca made a decision that would completely change the dynamics of the situation. She grabbed her cell phone and dialed a number she had kept since the early days of her marriage, when Robert was establishing his business and needed to verify the integrity of potential partners. "Detective Smith? This is Rebecca Johnson. I need your services for a private investigation." Richard Smith was a former police detective who had retired early to open a private investigation agency specializing in corporate and family cases. His methods were discreet and efficient, and his reputation in Beverly Hills high society was impeccable. "Mrs. Johnson, it's a pleasure to hear your voice again," he replied, his deep voice carrying the accent acquired during years of working in Los Angeles. "How can I assist you?" "I need a complete investigation on one of our employees," Rebecca said, instinctively lowering her voice. "Maria Johnson, 42 years old, originally from California. I want to know everything about her, professional, personal, financial history, everything." "I understand. May I ask the reason for the investigation?" Rebecca hesitated for a moment, aware that her motivations were a complex mix of legitimate concern and irrational jealousy. "She works directly with our children and has full access to our home," she explained. "We recently discovered that she omitted important information about her professional background. We need to ensure there are no other secrets that could put our family at risk." "I completely understand. In cases involving family safety, it's always better to err on the side of caution," Smith agreed. "I'll need all the documents you have on her: ID, social security number, proof of address, references. The more initial information, the more efficient the investigation will be." "I can provide all that by Monday," Rebecca promised. "How long do you think it will take?" "For a complete investigation, between 1 and 2 weeks. Depending on the complexity of the case and the availability of records. If she really has something to hide, I will find out." After hanging up the phone, Rebecca felt a mix of relief and guilt. On one hand, she was taking practical steps to protect her family. On the other, she knew she was invading the privacy of a woman who had shown nothing but dedication and competence in her work. That afternoon, while organizing Maria's documents that were filed in Robert's office, Rebecca made a discovery that heightened her suspicions. The address Maria had provided was a small apartment in a modest neighborhood in East Beverly Hills, but the work references were scarce and vague. Moreover, there was a gap of almost 3 years in her professional history, exactly the period she had vaguely mentioned as hard times. "Ryan, who had gone downstairs to get water in the kitchen," observed his mother, spreading papers across the dining room table, her expression tense and focused. "Mom, what are you doing with Maria's documents?" he asked, genuinely curious. Rebecca jumped, not having noticed her son's approach. "Just organizing some papers for HR," she lied, trying to sound casual. Ryan studied her with the perceptive gaze he had inherited from his father. At 16, he was mature enough to recognize when the adults around him were hiding something. "You're investigating her, aren't you?" he asked directly, surprising Rebecca with his insight. "Because of what happened with Lily?" "Ryan, that's none of your business," Rebecca replied firmly, quickly gathering the documents. "She's a good person, Mom," Ryan said, his voice carrying a conviction that surprised Rebecca. "Whatever you're looking for, I'm sure you won't find anything that changes that." It was rare for Ryan to defend someone so vehemently, especially an adult. His statement made Rebecca realize that Maria had managed to win not only Lily's affection, but also the respect of her rebellious teenage son. As Ryan went back upstairs to his room, Rebecca was left alone in the dining room, surrounded by the documents of a woman who had become simultaneously indispensable and incomprehensible to her family. The investigation she had initiated would reveal the truth about Maria, but Rebecca was beginning to suspect that this truth could be more complex and painful than she was prepared to face. On the following Monday, when Maria arrived for another day of work, she had no idea that her life was being carefully dissected by a professional investigator, nor that the secrets she had guarded so zealously were about to come to light in a way that would forever change her relationship with the Johnson family. Monday arrived with the typical overcast sky of January in Beverly Hills, promising an afternoon of heavy rains. Maria arrived promptly at 8 in the morning, as always, carrying her simple, synthetic leather bag and a discreet smile that had become a familiar part of the mansion's morning routine. She did not realize that Rebecca's eyes were following her with a different intensity, nor that every move she made was being mentally catalogued and analyzed. "Good morning, Mrs. Johnson," Maria greeted politely, heading to the changing room to change clothes. "How was your weekend?" "Good, thank you," Rebecca replied, her voice sounding strangely formal. "Lily has asked about you several times. She's eager to tell you about a new book she got." Maria smiled genuinely, that smile that lit up her face and revealed the maternal tenderness she tried to keep in check. "That's great. I'll look for her after I finish cleaning Mr. Roberts' office." As Maria headed to the changing room, Rebecca watched her leave with conflicting feelings. There was something comforting about the presence of that woman, a serenity that brought peace to the house even on the busiest days. But Rebecca's tranquility was being eroded by the anxiety of waiting. Detective Smith had promised the first results of the investigation by the end of the week. In Robert's office, Maria worked with her usual efficiency, organizing documents, dusting the shelves, and watering the ornamental plants. Her movements were automatic, but her mind was restless. In recent days, she had noticed a subtle change in Rebecca's behavior. Lingering glances, seemingly casual questions about her past, an almost imperceptible tension in her voice when addressing her. While wiping down the mahogany furniture, Maria couldn't help but notice some documents scattered across the desk. Her trained eyes in legal matters immediately identified land purchase contracts in the north region of the country. What disturbed her were not the contracts themselves, but the working conditions described in the fine print. Salaries below the legal minimum, lack of labor guarantees, conditions bordering on exploitation. Her hands trembled slightly as she continued cleaning, trying to process what she had read. "Did you find something interesting?" Ryan's voice startled her. The teenager was leaning against the doorframe, watching her with that penetrating gaze that always made her uncomfortable due to its insightfulness. "Sorry, Ryan, I didn't hear you come in," she said, quickly stepping away from the desk. "I was just cleaning." "I know," he said, entering the office and closing the door behind him. "But you were reading the contracts, weren't you?" "I could tell by the expression on your face." Maria felt cornered. Ryan's observational skills were almost supernatural, and lying to him seemed impossible. "I didn't mean to snoop," she said sincerely. "I just couldn't help but notice a few things." Ryan approached the desk, his eyes scanning the documents with a familiarity that surprised Maria. "You know what this is about, don't you? Not just because you were reading, but because you understand what's written there." The statement was a gentle yet direct accusation. Ryan had connected the dots that his family was still trying to decipher. "Ryan, Maria began, but was interrupted by a gesture from the boy's hand. "My mom hired a detective to investigate you," he said abruptly, his words falling like bombs in the silence of the office. Maria felt as if the ground had opened beneath her feet. Her legs went weak, and she had to lean on the desk to avoid stumbling. The news was devastating, but not entirely surprising. She had sensed the suspicions growing, the atmosphere becoming increasingly tense. "A detective," she repeated, her voice coming out as a whisper. "En indasan taon. Mama's been paranoid ever since she found out you're a nursing technician," Ryan explained, his voice carrying a muted anger directed at his parents. She thinks you're hiding something dangerous that could be a threat to the family." Maria closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 3 years of careful life reconstruction crumbling around her. If a professional investigator started digging into her past, it wouldn't take long for the whole truth to come out about her law degree, about the corruption case she had reported, about the daughter she lost, about the family connection that tied her to that house in ways no one suspected. "How long?" she asked, opening her eyes to find Ryan's understanding gaze. "She called him on Saturday. He probably delivered your documents yesterday." Maria nodded slowly, her mind racing to assess her options. She could simply leave, disappear as she had 3 years earlier when her life in New Orleans became unsustainable. But the idea of abandoning Lily and even the complicated family that had become important to her was too painful to consider. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. Ryan hesitated for a moment, as if struggling with his own feelings. "Because you're the first person in this house who treats me like I'm real," he finally said. "My parents are always so busy with business and appearances that they hardly notice I exist. You really listen when I talk." The confession touched Maria deeply. She had recognized from the beginning that Ryan was a lonely young man, lost between family expectations and his own search for identity. "Ryan, I need you to understand one thing," she said, stepping closer to him. "I would never harm you or Lily, never. Regardless of what that detective discovers about me, that is an absolute truth." "I know," he replied simply. "The question is, are you going to stay to face whatever comes, or are you going to run away like all the adults do when things get complicated?" The question was a direct challenge, but also a desperate plea from a boy who had found in Maria the trustworthy adult he lacked. She looked around the office, at the documents revealing Robert's hypocrisy, at the luxurious life built at the expense of others' exploitation, at the complexity of a family that had become her emotional anchor. "I'm going to stay," she finally said, her voice carrying a determination that surprised them both. "But when the truth comes to light, and it will, I need you to remember that not..." Adaptações. Eliane Ferreira. Maria Johnson. Rafael Ryan Augusto Carvalho. Robert Johnson. Beatriz Carvalho. Rebecca Johnson, Belém, New Orleans. Dr. Carlos Henrique Monteiro. Dr. Charles Montgomery, Isabella. Isabella. Hospital Estadual de Belém, State Hospital of New Orleans. SUS. Medicaid. Ministério Público. District Attorney's Office. Dona Beatriz, Mrs. Johnson, Detetive Moreira, Detective Smith. Senhora Carvalho, Mrs. Johnson. Eliane Ferreira Santos, Maria Johnson. Mãe, mom, pai, dad. Casa, house, escola, de school. Trágico, tragic, tristeza, sadness. Casamento, marriage, filha, daughter. Mortis, death, vidas, life. Trabalho, job. Família, family, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, father, coração, heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza, sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, father, coração, heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza, sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, father, coração, heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza, sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, father, coração, heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza, sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, father, coração, heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza, sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, father. Coração, heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza, sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness. Coração, heart, mundo, world. Mãe, mother, pai, a father. Coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness. Trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, tragic, tristeza ou de sadness, coração, heart, mundo, world, mãe, mother, pai, a father, coração, a heart, tristeza, sadness, trágico, adaptações, Eliane Ferreira, Maria Johnson, Beatriz Carvalho, Rebecca Johnson, Moreira, Smith, João Ferreira, John Johnson, Antônio Carvalho, Anthony Johnson, Isabela, Lili Sofia, Lili, empregada doméstica, housekeeper, detetive, detective, Casa dos Carvalho, Johnson Mansion, Dona, Beatriz, Mrs. Johnson, Tia Eliane, Aunt, Maria, Mamãe, Mami, Vovó, Grandma, Isabela. Teria 8 anos agora. Lily would be 8 years old. Now, café, coffee, biscoitos, cookies, piano, música, music, casa, house, limpeza da casa. House cleaning, adultos, adults, cozinha, kitchen, sala, de estar, living, room, pijamas, quer dizer, pajamas, mãe, os mothers, pai, dos fathers, irmã, sisters, filha, daughter, filho, som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, família, family, casa, house, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho, som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho, som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho, som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho, som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho, som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho e som, coração, heart, mãe, mother, pai, father, irmã, sister, filha, daughter, filho, som, coração, adaptações. Eliane Ferreira, Maria Johnson, Carvalho, Johnson, Isabela, Isabela, Augusto Carvalho, Robert Johnson, Beatriz Carvalho, Rebecca Johnson, Rafael, Ryan, Sofia, Lily, Joan, John, mamãe, mommy, vovó, grandma, piano de cauda, grand piano, Dona Beatriz, Mrs. Johnson, tia Eliane, Aunt Maria, vovó Carmen, Grandma Carol, Augusto, Robert, Detective, Detective, Café, Coffee, biscoitos e cookies, casa, house, música, music, escritório, office, funcionária, employee, empregada, employee, limpeza doméstica, domestic work, diarista, housekeeper, piscina, pool, jardins, gardens, caminhar, walk, música, music, coração, heart, coração, heart, 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 música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
coração, heart, música, music,
coração, heart,
Coração, heart, música, music.
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 coração, heart,
Coração, heart, música, music. Coração, heart, coração, heart. The employee turnover had decreased, and the company's reputation had improved significantly. Ryan entered the music room at that moment, carrying an acoustic guitar he had received as a gift for his 17th birthday. The teenager who once lived isolated with his headphones was now actively participating in family life, especially when music was involved. "Can I join you?" he asked, tuning the strings of the guitar. "Of course," replied Lily enthusiastically. "Let's play that song Aunt Maria taught us." In the months following the revelation of Maria's true identity, Ryan had found in her not just a friend, but a mentor who encouraged him to channel his rebellious energy into meaningful causes. He now dedicated 2 afternoons a week to a volunteer project in public hospitals, where he used music as therapy for hospitalized children, an initiative that had arisen from a conversation with Maria about how to turn pain into purpose. Rebecca appeared at the door of the music room, watching her family gathered around the music with a serene smile that had become her trademark in recent months. The family therapy she had started after the revelations about Maria had helped her confront her insecurities and develop a more authentic relationship with her children and husband. "Dinner is almost ready," she announced. "But you can finish the song before coming." Rebecca's transformation had perhaps been the most dramatic of all. The woman who once hid behind flashy jewelry and designer clothes now radiated genuine confidence that came from within. Her friendship with Maria had developed into a deep bond, and together they had established a social project offering free music lessons to children in the community on weekends. When the music ended, the family headed to the dining room, but not before a tradition that had naturally established itself, the collective hug that sealed each musical session. It was in those moments that Maria felt the miracle of her new life most intensely. During dinner, while discussing plans for the community music project that would launch the following month, Maria looked around the table and saw faces that had become as precious to her as her biological family. Lily, chattering excitedly about the piano performance she would give at school. Ryan, enthusiastically describing an 8-year-old boy in the hospital who had started to smile after learning to play the harmonica. Rebecca, radiant as she spoke about the 20 children already enrolled in the community classes. Robert, his eyes shining with genuine pride for the family they had built together. "Maria," Robert said during a pause in the conversation, "there's something we would like to propose. Maria raised her eyebrows, curious.
What is it?
Well, he continued, exchanging meaningful glances with Rebecca, we've been discussing a lot about the structure of our family, about how to make official what already exists in our hearts. Rebecca smiled and took Maria's hand. We would like to formalize your adoption as our sister. Legally, you would be a Johnson, as you always should have been. The silence that followed was filled with emotion. Maria felt tears forming in her eyes, but this time they were tears of gratitude and pure joy. Does that mean, she said with a choked voice, that Lily and Ryan would officially be my nieces and nephew? And I would officially be your most annoying sister, Rebecca joked, making everyone laugh. Lily clapped her hands in joy. Does that mean Aunt Maria will be our family forever? She already is our family forever, Ryan said, with the wisdom of someone who had learned that love does not depend on official papers. But it would be nice to make it official. As the family discussed the practical details of the adoption, Maria allowed herself a moment of reflection on the extraordinary journey that had brought her here. 3 years earlier, she had arrived in Beverly Hills as a broken woman, carrying only pain and the desire to hide from the world. Now, she was sitting at the table with people who loved her unconditionally, planning a future filled with music, purpose, and joy. The doorbell interrupted her thoughts. Rebecca got up to answer and returned a few minutes later carrying an official letter with the seal of the public ministry. It's for you, Maria, she said, handing over the envelope. From the Public Ministry of California. Maria opened the letter with slightly trembling hands, read quickly, and then looked at her family with a smile that radiated deep satisfaction.
What is it?
Robert asked. It's a letter of official recognition for my role in exposing corruption 3 years ago, she explained. They want to honor me at a public ceremony in New Orleans, and they are offering my reinstatement to the health system with all honors. Are you going to accept? Lily asked with a hint of concern in her voice. Maria looked at the girl who had become the daughter of her heart, at the family that had healed her deepest wounds, at the new life they had built together. I will accept the honor, she said, because it represents justice for Isabella and for all the people who were harmed by corruption. But my life is here now with you. This is my family, this is my home, and this is where I want to stay. The collective hug that followed was interrupted by the sound of the piano. Lily had run to the music room and started playing a melody that Maria had composed especially for her. A song that spoke of second chances, of love that heals, of families that find each other when they need one another the most. As Lily's music echoed through the house, Maria closed her eyes and allowed herself to fully feel the miracle of her new reality. She had lost a daughter but gained an entire family. She had lost a career but found a purpose. She had arrived at that house as a strange woman in search of work, but she discovered that she was returning home. The music stopped, but the echo of happiness continued to resonate through the walls of the mansion that had become a true home. Outside, the summer sun of Beverly Hills began to set, painting the sky with golden hues that promised an even brighter tomorrow. In the music room, Lily called for the rest of the family. Come, I want to play one more song for you. And as they gathered around the piano once again, Maria knew with absolute certainty that she had found her place in the world. It was not just the place where she worked or lived, it was the place where she was loved, where she was needed, where she could love back without fear. The music started again, and with it the silent celebration of a family that had learned that true love knows no social barriers, that courage can arise from the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as tragedies that force us to discover who we really are. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and if you watched until here, comment, I watched until here, and leave your opinion about this story. Oh, and don't forget to watch the next video that appears on the final screen. It's very exciting.